Hey everybody, welcome to True Tuesday with me and my lovely buddy, Litecoin Lisa.
How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing pretty good. So, Satoshi Sean asked Lisa what her identification or definition of creation is. Then we can proceed on AI. Get some popcorn. All right, round two. Scorpion Sub-Zero. Get over here. All right.
And if you guys are wondering what he's talking about, you can go watch the first half on my channel where we talked about
people use words all the time,
AI
but are defining them differently, so misunderstanding. It's a very good point. Thank you, Fever Flav. All right. Hello to everyone.
Opinionated
Yo-yo.
Tuesday. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a.
But I love that. If you're gonna have friends that you can have a discussion about and think about and have different points of view, and that's how like critical thinking has been lost and killed by political correctness.
Yeah.
We had the kids had at homeschool today. They had presentations, and they were supposed to do because this year the like theme is space. They're learning about space and science, and they were supposed to do if you were having a space mission, what would your space mission be? And some of the kids were doing different things and whatever, and I'm like trying to play along and all that, and this one little girl, bless her pea picking heart, brought her family heirloom Life magazine with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin going to the moon, and she's showing the pictures, and the kids are like asking these questions like, how come the flag looks like that, and why is this like that, and what's that reflection in the guy's mask? And because they're trained to be critical thinkers, that's kind of the thing with our homeschool, is that we really encourage critical thinking and all this. So it was really interesting to hear and then we start talking about, and Cannon's like, they didn't really go to the moon though, right? I was like, well, that's something we can look into, and talk to Johnny Litecoin about it a little bit, and look into the Van Allen belt and what happens to you if a human passes it, and why there were three different. If you look at what the space shuttle looked like when it left the Earth, and what it looked like when it was on the moon, and what it looked like when it returned from the moon, why it looked like three different total.
There's so many basic questions.
Things.
And there's so many just super basic questions that are that don't make sense, like the fact that they destroyed all the footage.
Yeah.
Because video tapes are expensive. That's literally what they said. There's all that documentation, all the videos, all the original recordings are all destroyed or taped over.
Somebody taped over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nuts.
Well, and not too long ago, just before the Great Infection, remember they did that that trip. Was it a moon trip? And there was a little mouse running around with the jet right by the jet engine. Did you not see that?
I remember there was a mouse on.
And there was a mouse out in space running around by the jet engine.
There was a mouse in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember something.
I remember seeing that video.
But also, one thing I don't. No one asks is, I wasn't alive when it happened. It was literally like the year before. They launched on my birthday, which is pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then but people have, like, especially back then, astronomy was a hobby, and a lot of people had telescopes. So I don't remember people like talking about
Seeing
seeing
it.
it on the moon. Like, oh,
Hmm.
I could see it with my my expensive telescope because this is my hobby, and I got to look. And I don't remember, that's not wasn't a conversation that people had. They didn't talk about seeing it.
Hmm.
Um, but like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, you can look up there now and see their stuff there. Um, and you can argue that that was dropped there or whatever. But um, I don't know. But there are some very odd questions of why we've never been back, to go there again. And why we can't go there. They literally say there's been some officials that have said the technology doesn't exist to go back because it was like we don't have it anymore. That's dumb. But why
Yeah.
can we go to Mars if we can't go there? It's close. It's like, hey, I can go to Walmart, but I have to go 3 towns over. Why can't you go in your own town?
Right.
No, we can
Yeah.
only go to that one. That our Walmart, we can't. We don't
Hmm.
have the technology. Um, I don't know. It's weird. There's a lot of weird questions on that. Um,
There's a lot of weird questions with a lot of things that don't make sense, and we're just supposed to. It reminds me of my biological dad was really just a real jerk, to be honest. But he would
mine was
say
probably jerkier.
he would say, um, "Shut up and sit down. You're just along for the ride." When you're in the car, if you asked, where are we going or what's happening or something like that, because kids were
Usually,
supposed to,
you know that stuff
be
before you
quiet.
get in, Lisa.
No, no, you were to be seen and not heard, and yeah, and so you know, if you asked what was going on or where we are going or what's happening or whatever, it was, shut up, sit down, and you're along for the ride or whatever. And I think that the powers that be, our government, the fact that we're told that we have representation, that we vote on things, that we have a voice, that all these kind of things, that we have this leadership, which I guess it is maybe leadership and not representation, because they're making choices that I sure the hell didn't vote on, but I'm forced to fund and participate in these choices, you know? Um, and that's where, like, it does make people feel helpless and frustrated. And, you're seeing this national divorce thing trending right now. And the Brunson Adams thing was 9:45 this morning, I think Eastern time. And it's my understanding that was the last time for the Supreme Court to uh, hear it or have the petition presented again. Maybe there's more opportunities for
You know,
position
Carrie
petition
Lake
to
is Carrie
present,
Lake's pretty much
but it
lost.
got turned down again. The Carrie Lake thing keeps getting,
Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
mean, at some
she's
point,
done.
they're
And
just rubbing it in our
I
face.
told you that that was it, dude. I'm done.
Yeah,
If that worked out, I would have some faith in
I
the
know.
system. None. None, none, none. And she is the epitome of a pit bull. She did everything. She
So
left no
Marjorie
stone
Taylor
unturned.
Greene is suggesting
They're
like
going after her hardcore
red
now.
versus blue, and like that we split up the country that way, red versus blue states. But then you had even talked about inside states, counties are
Yeah.
even trying to divide, or cities
Well, it's going to
are
happen, and
even splitting
that's a
up.
big deal because it's going to happen. The Greater Idaho movement is going to happen because it's good for both parties. The It's going to make Oregon like a third of the size. They're going to lose 2/3 of their size, but they're going to save a buttload of money because the taxes uh, what's the word, subsidize a lot of the rural areas. So they're it's a win-win. Like the liberals are for it, and then Idaho is going to gain a buttload of tax money, and the that other 2/3 of Oregon, their tax burden is going to drop. So literally every party is going to win in that. So there's like there's no opposition, and if it does go through, then that will give precedence and give power to all these other smaller movements that have been trying to do stuff for years. Um, yeah, I am for I am. He's done too. I
Yeah,
saw
I think everyone's kind of getting to that point. I have a friend that was sharing a lot of, we're not supposed to be on our phone at school. And so we were like, if you're in the hallway or at lunch, we were sharing information with each other, like what the heck's going on and how much further can this get? And like I said, Uncle Cliff said that this week specifically, there's supposed to be like a month's worth of news coming out this week. And there's a lot of video coming out from the J6ers.
there's a big thing with California is looking to basically make LA Hollywood its own thing. But anyway, you said something about weird stuff. Did you get the thing I sent you about the Russian that Russian looking in your Twitter? She was an official and is responsible for
I saw right when I saw
big chunk defense official. She was responsible for a lot of the bad stuff in Ukraine, and she fell 160 feet from her death out of her apartment window.
Yeah, you know what that means.
Well, yeah.
You know who sent her.
But there's if you can play that story, it's a lot of people that Putin's giving the axe to, literally.
Well, hold on, let me see if I can. Well, that's not, if they go out a window, that's not who sent them. Wait.
Well, a lot of Clintons.
3-letter agency.
Suicides. A lot of suicides are happening.
That's a 3-letter agency sent them if they went out a window. That's old school. Okay, you should be able to. Yeah. Okay. Tell me, can you hear this?
An official in the war against Ukraine found dead after falling over 150 feet from a high-rise apartment window. While it is believed she died by suicide, her death is the latest in a string of suspicious deaths since the war began. Correspondent Kelly Beeson is here. Kelly, this is the second mysterious incident just this week.
Yeah, it is, Nicole.
This week.
Yesterday, a high-ranking Russian defense official key to funding the war in Ukraine, as you mentioned, is the latest to pass away under some very curious circumstances.
Russian military official Marina Yankina has reportedly been blamed for the Kremlin's worst losses in Ukraine. She's believed to have fallen 160 feet to her death from a high-rise apartment building. And according to a preliminary investigation, it's being reported she committed suicide. But not everyone is in agreement with the narrative.
Well, again, considering the context of the failure of the Russian military in Ukraine, the increasing domestic pressure on the Kremlin, because the standard of living of the average Russian has declined, it is very unlikely that all of these things happen randomly.
Yankina joins a growing list of Russian officials and businessmen who have died under unusual circumstances after Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year. Another alleged suicide by a Russian official taking place just days ago when Major General Vladimir Makarov was found dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Some reports allege the general was depressed after being let go from his post earlier this
multiple gunshot wounds. He was depressed.
I think the perception is that they will then become the enemies, in which case they will have an opportunity to act against the Kremlin. And this is something that Vladimir Putin, especially in the context of this campaign in Ukraine, would like to avoid.
And it isn't just war officials who have been found deceased.
Do what?
Look at all these people. Look at all these people. And it's not just, well, they'll tell you here.
Pavel Antov, a business tycoon and Russian politician, had been critical of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This message appearing on his WhatsApp account. It's extremely difficult to call all of this anything but terror. But the message was quickly taken down, and Antov says he didn't send it. In December, while on vacation, he was found dead at his hotel in India. Many also calling it suspicious.
Now, this comes as NATO has moved from cautiously providing non-lethal support to Ukraine to encouraging allies to send heavier
Yeah, you can
and more
stop.
high-tech weapons.
But yeah, it's
Man.
suspicious. Some are calling it suspicious. Yeah. And the thing about it's weird that you just can't fail, because if you fail, you get fired. And once you're fired, then they're worried that you don't have anything stopping you from, going after the president, or because you're no longer, bound to the service. So then they just whack you. Pretty bad.
I mean, I don't know. Everyone needs to go buy a puppy. I'm just like, I feel like it's just such a dark time right now. Like,
Yes, it is. I told you that like last week. It's such a dark. Like, there's so many terrible things. There's always like, oh my God, this is so terrible. Look at this, is terrible. But now it's like 7. There's 7 horrible things. I got to want to talk about China a little bit. It's worse than you think. Carrie Lake on what really happened in Arizona triggered us vulnerable. Check that out, y'all. What a wonderful it could be a wonderful world.
it could be. And I think it's insane that it had to, I know there's evil in the world. Like, Martin Luther King says, there's without light or without darkness, you can't see the light, or whatever the quote is, or whatever. Like, I get that. I just did not believe that it would take this. There's also the greatest revival is happening right now. Which of course they're not reporting that kind of stuff, but in the Christian community, they're talking about it. Like, there's huge revival happening right now. There's like, I can't remember on some of the college campuses, it's happening, like lines around buildings of, young people like coming to know God and changing their minds and opening their eyes and asking questions. Like we said, like, so there is another side of it too, but I can't believe this much darkness had to come for people to seek the light.
I can.
It's pretty incredible.
There's a scene in V, the miniseries for the visitors, aliens that come, and I mean, there's a lot of them, but one of them, this guy has these 2 priests, and this one priest was talking about how he didn't trust them, and this other priest's like, no, we'll talk about that. It's like, what are we gonna do a sermon on? And he's like, we're gonna do the sermon for the 2 bums and the whatever small amount of people we have there. And then they open the door, they go, into the church, and it's like super packed. There's like hundreds and hundreds of people, because everyone's freaked out that these aliens have come. You know what I mean? It's and that's happened. That happens to everybody. It happened to me. My ex, I mean, she's like ultra liberal now. Like, literally, she has pink hair. Her husband he's an immigrant from Canada. It's not really an immigrant, but whatever. He hates Texas. Doesn't like America very much. But when we were young, she hadn't had Nicholas and Robert yet. Was still pregnant, and we hit like rock bottom. I was going to be a financial advisor, and I had to go take this. You have to pass like a bar, like it's this big test. And I've never failed at anything in my life to that point. Like, if I tried, I would always succeed. I mean, I might not take first place, but I would always do okay. I would work hard and I would do okay. And I failed my test.
Was it your Series 7?
This was my life accident health.
Oh.
And I failed the test, and I was like, it was bad. but I had a temporary license, so I'd been working. But I took the test again and I failed. And I took the test again and I failed. And the test was like $150 or something, which this was 1990. And
Right.
and
And your young family and all that. Like, yeah.
well, there was a family. Yes, she was pregnant, but
Oh.
then my license ran out, my temporary license, so I couldn't work. So I had no income. I
Oh,
couldn't
gosh.
work, and I had to take this test. Took the test 7 times, failed every time, and then literally a couple times I'm like, oh, I passed. I missed 2 questions at the most. Failed. They wouldn't give you your score. They just tell you failed. And it was the 7th or 8th time. I was like, I know this is it's not, this is a scam. And it was a third party contractor that did the test. And you have to write a check and pay for the test when you get there. And I literally said, how much do I have to write this to pass? And she's like, don't worry about it. You'll pass this time. She just looked me straight in the face. She said, don't worry about it. You'll pass this time. No problem. I give her the check. I go out, do my test. And there was all these like young people out there. Young people, they were me, but I felt like some grizzled old veteran from NAM.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, oh, it was easy. Oh, I passed. And there's this girl's like, oh yeah, me too. I was like looking at him, I was like, yeah, you think you did. I tell you, I've seen some things.
Just wait.
And then they come out, and she's like, oh, you guys failed. All y'all failed. I remember it was weird because I went to a business school and specifically took tests on took some class on how to pass that test. And there's a crop. We all of us that were hired. There was like a retired sergeant major, so like 30 plus years in the military. There were a couple like people that were 20 years in the military. A couple guys that just got out. Big cross. One guy was a car salesman. Big cross section, and everyone got the same score. There was no, you did good, you did bad. Everyone got the same. So anyway, she came out and I'm like, yeah. And then she goes, oh, I told you you're passed. And I knew. I was like, oh, it's a fucking scam.
I was going to say, that sounds like the teaching or the training material is off. Care. And they want you to take it multiple times or something.
So then, this is like a couple years later, or a year or so later, I got a friend of mine hired. They went to all computerized stuff. This was like Scantron back when I did it. But he was people would go into a room, there's like 10 computers, and you take your test. And then I came up behind the woman who was out in the front office, and I just want to ask her about how much longer it would be. And I looked, and she was changing the fucking answers on someone's computer terminal. So they got caught, and they got fined, and it was like a big thing. But it was a scam. They were doing that just to keep people coming back because I took the test 7 times.
Because they were making money.
It was like $150 a test.
Yeah.
If you take if you take the test once, they're not making repeat business.
Right. So that's terrible.
Yeah, it was real bad. Once again, I don't know how we got on the subject, but please make sure you touch the like button.
It's great information. Yeah.
Oh, the thing about we're talking about Russians and the. I remember what it was. So at that time, though, when I had no money, everything sucked. I had went through 7 cars. I kept having to buy a car, and then it would be a lemon. And then I had less money. I couldn't put anything down. So I was going to like scammy dealerships. I had friends I had worked in the car, business when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was my life was bad. It was real bad. And I looked to my wife and I was like, I was thinking maybe we should go to church. And then she was like, yeah, I was actually thinking that too. But I was going to ask you about it. And, so the seeds that are planted by your parents and that we plant in our kids. When things get bad, when there's darkness, that's when they really
know where to go.
they know where to go. But I think not to be the downer, but I know the last 2 generations, there's a lot less seeds have been planted. So it's going to take a lot more darkness to bring people to the light. I did want to talk about something that I've talked about with you. About these. Remember, I told you about the Chinese troops all over the world, and these police stations that they set up, which they're fake police stations.
They're not really police. Well, they say they're like, what do they call it? Kind of like naturalizing or to help assimilate Chinese
why,
to
a lot of these countries have this huge
to New York
Chinese
or
population
to places.
is because they have dissidents who ran from China. So the Chinese government says, "Oh, these people need help." So we're it's like helping our citizens, which these people ran
to
away
the new country, right?
Yeah, and they're actually just policing them, and they harass them, and they try to get them back. Also, they're doing, I didn't know this, but they're doing huge illegal, they're basically grabbing people and bringing them back to China. Like 250,000 people they've done that to. And fun fact, will you share, I sent a video in the private chat. Will you bring that up and play that real quick? This is just a basic overview. It's from Fox News Digital. This isn't really being talked about that much. And then I will show you a report from a local news in New York.
Okay, do you have my page up? It's on.
It's aiming at silencing the community, silencing dissent, making sure that people are afraid enough, that they literally stated multiple times over the past months, over the past years, we will hunt you down wherever you are. So that's a clear message to anyone seeking to leave China or already having left China, that you're not safe anywhere. Our latest investigation, 110 Overseas, China's transnational policing gone wild, documents one specific campaign operated by a couple of counties within China using illegal methods to target, approach, and persuade individuals abroad to return to China against their will. Illegal methods, which included threatening, harassment of their family members, relatives back home, but also the use of individuals linked to the United Front operating in so-called overseas police stations everywhere in the world, across the 5 continents, to assist in these illegal policing operations against Chinese overseas. The particular campaign to counter telecom fraud, or at least that is what they call it,
telecom fraud,
back 230,000 individuals between April 2021 and July of this year, according to official numbers released by the Ministry of Public Security.
250,000
So obviously we're talking huge numbers. So we started looking into this specific campaign carried out by a couple of provinces, a couple of counties in particular. And we came across the fact that they are now, using the kind of united front network that we know exists around the world, but that, the Ministry of Public Security, the local county public security bureaus are building on this existing framework to set up these kind of overseas, well, not kind of, literally overseas police service centers that can be used and have been used. So this is obviously completely illegal. This is no regular international police cooperation, which obviously there's very strict rules. These have been set up without any knowledge of local authorities, without any requests. I think it also shows how brazen the CCP is getting, and how little regard they have, I would say, for other governments. When they talk about non-interference, this is a kind of non-interference, I guess, that the CCP likes to boast about, which obviously it's in violation of international law, it's in violation of territorial sovereignty. So on these 230,000, we don't really have an account of what happened to each individual. So the persuasion tactics used when they use family members, relatives, loved ones, but even in some cases, maybe community elders, people that are responsible for a certain part of the community, they can either, keep their kids from going to public schools, from attending certain schools. They can cut off benefits, which may be social benefits, health benefits. They may confiscate the properties of those people. They may confiscate maybe their bank accounts or freeze their bank accounts. People may lose their employment, be banned from certain employment. So anything really to convince them to persuade their family members or otherwise related person to come back. But in some cases, it goes a lot further, and they will, interrogate people, bring people in for interrogation, maybe detain people. There's also guilt by association. There's accounts of people being.
So, like I said, we've talked about this. I told you about this years ago. They started in South Africa, and it blew my mind. Do you remember the one belt, one road thing that they did? So they were giving tons of money to all these different countries that really needed it. They needed it, and they're rebuilding infrastructure. China was giving so much away. But it's just like the mob. It came with strings. And they were setting up these police
We're
departments.
seeing this like in every country, including America. Maybe except Russia. I don't know if Russia's weaponizing their government against their people.
Well, we've always done this. See, like you watch any spy show, and our CIA has offices and in safe houses and different countries, and that's spy shit. But it's always spy shit. The word is brazen.
Yeah,
it's
blatant,
like, oh, we're
brazen,
here, we don't care. Here, this is. What are you going to do?
There's a poem that made me think of. I pulled it up really quick. It says, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." And that's what we have to realize, like, and maybe that's the way we all become one, is that it's not about, we didn't speak up for the Uyghurs, and now they're coming for all the rest of
anyone
China. Anyone that trying to leave, and now they're coming for us.
But like she said, they're violating all these laws. And when it comes to anything with China, it's really the amount of control that they have is unbelievable. I mean, the fact that they change movies.
But Sean, how is that different than what's going on here?
No, they have control
here. Movies here. They're spying
they change
on
our
us
movies here. They change like Star Wars. Finn, he's black, and they took him off the movie poster. It's insane the amount of power and control that they have in our country. But and it's not talked about.
I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about the weaponization of our own government. And thank you, Viva Flav. I'm glad you're taking your new Eden, and you'll be healthy when we come out of this.
But this is from a local news in old New York, because they're here. They have a police station here in the United States of America.
Multiple.
This is New York City's Chinatown, where the fantastic and the practical attract tourists and locals, all looking for a piece of China on every corner. But hidden from public view on these busy streets is a secret that has captured the attention of the U.S. government. That secret first came to light this past fall, when the European human rights organization Safeguard Defenders revealed the locations of more than 100 suspected Chinese police service stations around the world, including New York. The group says Chinese law enforcement quietly set up these outposts to track, harass, and repatriate Chinese citizens. Here in the U.S., the FBI has set its sights on Manhattan's Chinatown and a single building that's home to a Chinese outfit known as the America Shangla Association, which promotes itself as a place that helps Chinese nationals in New York. But something more nefarious is at play there, says attorney Mike Gao.
Shangla Association number one job is get personal information and then give the Chinese government.
Gao once worked in China's public security ministry, conducting criminal investigations. But after participating in protests against the Chinese government in Tiananmen Square in 1989, he fled to the U.S. Now he represents Chinese citizens in New York who say they've been persecuted by their government, and that the Shangla Association has become, in effect, a long arm of China.
They even say we have camera everywhere, we take a video everywhere, and we can send this stuff back to China.
It's not only Shangla. Gao says China, half a world away, has run operations that have targeted his clients because of their wealth or history of descent. Are they going after men and women, young and old?
They don't care whether or not you're a man or a woman, a young man or older man, they don't care.
This client, Mao Huayan, knows what it's like to be threatened on U.S. soil.
This
He
is sad.
showed us a photo that he says police in China texted him 2 years ago after he refused to return. It's a picture of my daughter, caged, he says. He was so frightened of what authorities might do next, he stopped communicating with his family in China.
China has the strategic intent to influence worldwide.
None of these tactics surprised John Darby, the National Security Agency's former director of operations. How good is China at tracking some of their own down?
I think it's fair to say China would be very good at tracking down individuals they're interested in. The Chinese population dwarfs the United States, and their intelligence, the size of their intelligence services dwarf that of the United States. So just in terms of pure volume of activity, it's more.
He says in a case like Yen's, the Chinese government likely put him on a target list to monitor his WeChat communications in near real time. We wanted to know if Shangla Associates were involved in the same kind of intimidation campaign, so we headed to the outpost. To New Yorkers passing by, there's no indication something may be happening here about the ramen shop. It's surrounded by stores, restaurants, hotels, the everyday bustle of New York. Hello? I'm a reporter. Okay, thank you.
Oh my God, she should be scared for her life.
Hello, how are you?
English, sorry, no English.
Can we come in?
You call my boss.
We asked for his boss's business card. The name on the card, Jimmy Liu, a campaign donor to lawmakers. We called, texted, and emailed Liu,
Please leave your message.
who did not respond. But we did find this video from this past September. And in it, Liu announces that his association was entrusted with setting up a police department inside the Shangla Association. We also found this image of Shangla Associates inside the office with a banner announcing an overseas police service station posted in Chinese media this past spring. But during our visit, the banner was gone. In a statement to Scripps News, the spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington denied the existence of police stations, saying they help with driver's license renewals. The venues are provided by local overseas Chinese communities. They're not police personnel from China. There's no need to make people nervous about this. But a former U.S. national security official familiar with China's tactics told us FBI agents have warned state and local police that plainclothed Chinese police may try to approach them for information about Chinese nationals.
FBI has like a long list for those people who support
Listen to
or
this in
work
one station.
on behalf of Chinese government, even only in Flushing area.
How many people?
300.
300. And they're here still in the U.S.?
Yeah, correct.
300 operatives in one New York City borough alone. It's a number Scripps News could not independently verify. But China experts we talked to for this story say New York is likely a pilot project for the rest of America. Where else in the country do you see this happening?
Everywhere. Los Angeles and Chicago, Miami, everywhere, Boston, and even DC.
Now, a man named Jingji Chen, who is a researcher from Safeguard Defenders, he responded when I told him that Chinese officials said that these outposts were meant to provide services like driver's license renewals. And he called it an absurd excuse because Chinese consulates in the U.S. are supposed to be doing that work. And according to records that I obtained, the Shangla Association, it was able to buy that office space through a loan with the Queens New York branch of the Bank of China, which is majority state owned. So more connections there, Chance.
Wow, Sasha. Yeah, this could be a pilot project for many other projects. You kind of go back to, remember when Russia, they found that little group that was operating here? That was a big story. If this was in major American cities, huge. Could you talk a little bit more about the bigger concern that these operations are happening in the U.S.?
Well, the reason we should all be concerned is because essentially this is a foreign government conducting operations secretly, silently on people who are living on U.S. soil. It's something that FBI Director Chris Wray testified about last fall. And a former senior official tells me FBI officials are very concerned about this, that they've been doing what's called knock-and talks, where they try to pressure these operatives to shut down their own operations. Experts that I talked to for this story saying that there are no limits to how far China will go to track down their own citizens, and that this appears to be something that falls under the efforts of Chinese President Xi Jinping in his anti-corruption campaign, targeting dissidents, whistleblowers, fugitives, and business people to try to bring them back to China wherever they are in the world. And experts also said that they believe this might be a test to see how the U.S. responds. Meanwhile, that lawyer, Mike Gao, he said that he believes that China dreams of using these same tactics someday on Americans. Chance.
That's chilling. Sasha Ingber, eye-opening report there. Thank you.
These states, and this, I am for I am brought this up. It's true. I've heard this is happening too. They're also making it a lot harder for people to expatriate themselves from the United States and to denounce their citizenship. It used to be free, and then they started charging you, and then people were like, "Okay, I'll pay that." And they started charging you thousands, and now people are like, "Oh, hold on." It's really messed up, and North Korea has a whole. That's how they exist. They have this secret agency called like Bureau 38 or something. You look into it; it's pretty crazy, but that's how they fund their government. Is by like kind of traditional means, criminal stuff,
Organized crime.
Yeah, prostitution.
Under the guise of politics. Yeah.
But especially in Canada, I work with.
I
work with a lot of Chinese people that live in Canada who are extremely wealthy, and there's a huge, very, very, very well-to-do Asian community there. So they have those outposts there. But imagine that these people were allowed to leave. These people got out. They made their fortunes. Under
they're being
capitalism,
hunted.
and now they're being hunted so they can take their money. They can bring them back, seize all that they've acquired, all that they've made, all of their success, and then put them in jail or kill them.
And in the most cruel way, to hold your family hostage, basically like kidnapping, extortion, blackmail. I mean, all the most cruel, horrible ways.
But what I am said there that the IRS is doing this, blah, 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 blah. They are. And that's that was the most scary thing years ago when we started talking about the Black Mirror and the surveillance state. And our government was talking about, hey, this is kind of a good idea. They were holding up the things that China was doing.
Yeah.
And you can't argue with the results. They get results. But they're terrible. This is the things that we got away from. This is why we left. This is why we started our country.
Right.
for freedom, for liberty, not for safety, not for security, but for freedom. And our own government, I think, is it looks to China, and I think everyone, it's always with good intention. Not always. I won't even give them that, but a lot of times it's with good intentions. Like every moronic college kid who's like, "Oh no, socialism can work this time if we just do this," and it's like, no, we care. No, we're nice. We'll use this tyrannical, technology or whatever, but we'll do it right. It's not. Evil is evil. Tyranny is tyranny. Freedom is freedom. I think there's certain things that it's like you can't be a little pregnant. And they're probably going to change that soon. But either it is or it isn't. But I thought that was pretty crazy that they're here. I remember.
I know. Oh, go ahead.
Years ago, we had UN troops were at the Super Bowl, just like for extra security or something, and that was like a big deal. That was a huge story, and they ended up not. I think they pulled them.
Well, Biden's giving permission or signing over permission to the WHO recently. That was another big announcement over the weekend, I guess, or another one of his birthday presents to the U.S. That he signed or gave out. I don't know if it actually happened or if it was another like announcement or intention that I saw recently. I just think it's crazy.
Yeah, I watched this video of a bum sitting in the dirt, and
he's more free than
the wisdom that he spewed. He's like, divide and conquer. It's the oldest thing. That's why there has to be just two parties. Because if there was any more, they couldn't pit them against each other. They're all controlled by the same thing.
By hate.
They're all controlled by the same people. And then he started, spilling Bilderberg Group and all these. He was like, these are the people that really are running it. They have you guys here on two different teams, arguing with each other, fighting each other, and. But that's just a bum on the street, man. Sitting in the dirt.
Well, when you have to opt out, if those are your only choices, is to eat poison or starve, maybe sometimes you have to like starve until you can go build your own farm or way, or you know what I mean? Parallel systems, as I Am for I Am.
And we were talking about talking about O'Keefe. That was the biggest story. That is, I think that was it. All the theories and all the conspiracy talk and all of the circumstantial evidence. That was like, it broke it, man. It was the biggest story, I think, maybe in like human history. They said that they were doing, what was it, controlled evolution, and he gets fired right weeks later, and we're supposed to be like, oh, that wasn't, and they said, oh, this just happened to be that way. But
and there's supposed to be a new, like a coming out or a new Snowden kind of moment for us. I wonder if that's going to be.
And then you look at Snowden, you look at Assange.
Yeah,
I have a friend who was more woke or awake than I was. Someone who is I think very, very intelligent, and she hated Snowden and called him a traitor, and it was, but I think she may have finally come around. But when it happened, whistleblowers used to be like protected and they're heroes, and now they're questions and they're traitors, which is like, that's the stuff that like Russia and China and Nazis, that's what they used to say. We were different. We're not different anymore. The United States is not. We're not different. We're the same, just like any country in Europe.
I think media-wise, we're the same. I don't think that's what's happening underneath. But yeah,
the way we live,
it's just like the whole. They're not showing the revival. They're not showing the good stuff. They're showing you the fear porn. They're showing you the negative. They're showing you the
47%.
like you even said the
majority
how many
of our country.
train derailments are there every year? There's been thousands every year, but we're just seeing them in the news now. Like it's all the fear porn.
That's a whole nother video how bad Ohio is.
Right. So
it's like a Chernobyl kind
how
of
much of this is like
But Lisa,
what channel are you watching
take responsibility.
to have the
our
narrative?
country
Right,
our
we
country
do.
is a certain way, and we are not
but it's not
the good. I think the good awake real American loving.
You
think
can't
it's like
discount
46%.
the good and only say the bad is happening.
No, I think the bad is in control. I think that it's like 53% to 45, 6%.
I think the bad is being shown. If the bad was in control, you wouldn't see it. There's no way. If they were in control, you wouldn't see it. When they were in control, you thought it was Disneyland.
We would have had the great big red wave. So many other things would have happened.
No, you wouldn't.
Carrie Lake would have won something. It's not.
No, you wouldn't. And because that's what happened for all those years.
We wouldn't have had the stuff.
That's why the Bushes are the same thing as the Obamas.
We wouldn't have had all
that's when the bad guys were in control.
We have to admit
the fact that we see it now.
Our country is like all the other countries. It's not just what's being shown; it's how people are. Look, ask public. Go live in New Jersey, New York, anywhere in most of the country. You and I live in the freest 2 states, even Florida. There's a battle going on in Florida because it's like in the media so much. But you and I in Oklahoma and Texas, we don't have to put up with probably 80% of the crap that other states do. So it's not like it is for us.
But it's really just in the cities and in the leadership, not in the people and out in the country. So,
but it is. It's the like above 50%. It's not like 80% or something, but it's the majority. And our country is being run that way, and that's how we are. We are the way it is being run, and we have to stop it. We can't just say, oh, I'm this way and my friends are this way, and we have to fix it. And the first step is admitting you have a problem, and we have to admit we got a problem.
I admit that we have a problem. That there's a lot of corruption. That's the problem.
Yeah, that usually is always the problem. But yeah,
I got to go get some puppy hugs and dinner, and I love you.
I love you too.
It's been a long day. I got another one tomorrow ahead of me.
That's the stuff about Fox.
All
the Fox stuff coming out in the court about how they all were talking crap about Giuliani and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Private text. All right. Well,
look into who was in charge of removing all the metal from the towers and why Giuliani might have been sweating his self off after they announced releasing the Kraken.
All right, you guys, it was great hanging out. I love you. Make sure you hit the like button. I will leave you guys with the stairs video because it's nice.